is the strategy of ISM 2.0 to sort of become part of the global value chain, or are you more positioning towards India creating its own native LLMs? Thank you.
I think Kashmini Vaishnav, the minister, has been speaking extensively about this. There are several aspects of it. We want to be sure that in the semiconductor domain, we have every expertise for all those 5 major chip or modeling or the infrastructure, design, every aspect of it. So he is talking about creating abilities within capacities within the country to be able to have that kind of a infrastructure well laid out within the country. And similarly, if you're looking at the way in which our startups are working, using AI, and very clearly we have also shown a path that it is not just the large language models, but also smaller ones, medium-sized ones, which can serve the requirement of your economy. So AI in India, particularly when you have a huge demographic dividend, will have to give us results to ensure that our people have work, and also the opportunities are going to be enticing enough for the youth. It cannot replace human efforts. So we are at the same time redefining for ourselves, if I may use that expression, on how to use AI, what is the capacity that we have to create, the kind of infrastructure that we have to lay in the ground for it. Equally, the products which come out of it will have to benefit our people, because our youth are revving to do more and new. For them to do something new and for them to do something more, we have to create benefits out of AI rather than push along with AI unthinkingly that it doesn't serve our people. So I think these many different factors play in making a decision on semiconductor. And that is where semiconductor ISM 2.0 looks into these aspects as well. And I'll ask the CEA to speak a bit on it, because he spent a lot of time so that he could write effectively capturing what's happening down. Ananta, you want to say anything on it?
Actually, we have to see the semiconductor mission and the announcements related to the rare earth corridor, which ma'am talked about a few minutes ago. All of them as part of the framework that we presented a couple of days ago here on the strategic resilience part. So, in fact, many elements of this ma'am's budget speech focus both on equipping us to handle the AI-related technology as well as skilling the population in areas where they can be immune to some of the AI-related impacts as well. So it covers both dimensions, and therefore the semiconductor mission, the rare earth corridor, and also some of the Part B announcements ma'am made about the various electronics and manufacturing sectors were all part of the initiatives to make sure that we make ourselves strategically resilient in a very fraught global environment.
138 at the back side.
I'm Rishabh with NDTV Profit. Just wanted to ask on the buyback tax, the rationale behind it, because was it essential to do it now? Because in 2025, there were a lot of companies that came out with significant share buybacks. Also because, and also do you foresee some sort of a reduction in buybacks? And secondly, on pollution related schemes, the outlay has been very stagnant, but pollution as a problem remains. Is this not a policy priority for the government now?
On the buyback, I'll have Revenue Secretary brief us.
First of all, on the buyback, I'd like to clarify. I hope that the point was clear enough in the speech also, that it is in fact a relief. It's not a tax, additional tax, it is a relief. Buyback tax system was changed to make it as a dividend income, which is income at the applicable income tax rate at the hand of the shareholder. It has been corrected now, and we have put the tax to be in the hands of shareholder as a capital gains tax, which long term, for example, will be only 12.5%. So there is a correction and a relief which has been given to the shareholders. All that has been done is, the whole objective of doing that change at that time was misuse of a tax arbitrage by promoters. So the change made for promoter is that additional buyback tax on them, which again keeps things status quo for them. So even today, the marginal rate at which they would have been paying the tax as a dividend, which is at their respective income tax rates, we have kept it at 30 and 22. If it is a corporate, 22. If it is an individual, 30. So as far as promoters is concerned, it is status quo. As far as the other shareholders concerned, it is actually a very big relief. So that is probably what may make the point a little clearer, the announcement itself clearer. 76 at the front side.
So pollution is a priority with government, and not everything has to appear at the budget speech is how I would put it, ma'am. So we are working with many state governments on projects related to air pollution, even water pollution. There is a significant budgetary outlay on sewage control as well as drainage. And as it was noted, you would have seen the Finance Commission recommendations also. A large portion of the Finance Commission grants to the local bodies, urban and rural, is tied to water and sanitation, particularly I would say sanitation. So pollution of all kinds remains a top priority, and there are different ways in which we are trying to tackle it.
Hello, ma'am. Ma'am, I am Monica from Business Standard. Ma'am, I have two questions. Ma'am, I am here. Ma'am, I have two questions with regard to customs. Ma'am, in your budget speech, you said that honest taxpayers will be able to close their case and they can pay the additional amount in view of penalty. So I want to know whether this is a customs amnesty scheme, and if you can just provide the contours of this scheme. And also, ma'am, economic survey flagged the need for convergence between transfer pricing, which comes under income tax law, and customs valuation. But there was no mention in your budget speech. So is there any such proposal being considered by the government?
Both on the direct tax and the indirect tax. This is not an amnesty scheme. Is essentially an offer given to the honest taxpayer who would otherwise, when he gets to know that he has to pay the duty, he will like to pay it. But because our laws require him to also pay a penalty on that, the negative connotation associated with being penalized, which he has to obviously disclose at some point of time, does create a situation for him or an incentive for him to rather dispute the duty, even though he may not want to do it. So the window that we are giving to the taxpayer is that you will, if you are willing to pay your tax or whatever is the duty, instead of penalty, that same amount you can pay in the form of an additional amount. So it will not be either a relief or an amnesty. At the same time, this amount that you pay will not be treated as a amount which you have paid as a penalty, and therefore that negative connotation will go away. You may have seen that there is another announcement of a similar nature on the income tax side, where when it comes to the cases of underreporting today, there is a provision under which you have to pay tax, interest on tax, and a 50% penalty. If you are willing to accept the demand and not go on appeal, you need not pay the penalty of 50%. You can go ahead and pay your tax and interest, and the matter is closed. What we have done is expanded this window and included even misreporting cases, where penalty is otherwise 200%. But there again, we are telling him that you can settle it by paying the tax, the interest on tax, and this 200% get reduced by half. You pay 100% as an additional income tax. The idea here is that if you are an honest taxpayer, accept the fact that you have to pay the duty. We will not like to brand you by using the word like penalty. That is these two windows are essentially meant to take care of those situations, which is why reference to an honest taxpayer. Yeah, we are examining that separately. 194. Left side, yes. Back.
Ma'am, this is Amitod Singh from CNBC International. Congratulations to you and your entire team. I have two questions. The first is around foreign investors. There were a number of expectations that taxation structures would be changed, particularly when you think about things like withholding tax. So what we want to understand is whether that was even discussed within the government, My second question is 15% defense spend increase. How much of that has to do with global uncertainty?
Revenue Secretary can answer on the first question. See, global uncertainty is something which definitely occupies all the officials' mind when we are preparing for the budget. But I won't attribute it to be the cause for any one step. Across the board, we kept that in mind. So it's not the cause for any one thing that we've done or one thing which we did not do. That's kept in our mind. Our macroeconomic fundamentals are strong. You heard the CEA speak that despite you having a macro sound economic foundation, you're still sort of facing a world which is uncertain. And therefore, when currency, Indian rupee versus the dollar becomes an issue, you have done everything within the country to make sure your fundamentals are fine. But the uncertainty globally is affecting on many grounds, and we are seized of it for everything that we do, not for one particular thing. But ours.
Yeah, I think today we need to look at what has been announced in the budget. So we would rather focus on that, because there would obviously be many of the issues which would be discussed and deliberated. But what has come out for you before in the budget is what is there, and we should probably focus on that. And if you saw that there are many announcements, especially which are addressing the needs for attracting investment in India, bringing more certainty, both for the residents who interact with their related parties, as well as for the non-residents who otherwise do business here. There's a whole host of those announcements. You would appreciate that what, for example, has been done in IT services is a change which is completely, and it's a fully comprehensive change, which practically will take care of just about 30 companies need to now sign APAs. The rest, all 11,000 odd, will be covered under one or the other system of certainty of taxation, either through safe harbor rules or through the APA agreements. So this has been a major change. In specific sectors where we felt that the residents needed certainty, we have provided that, whether it is in the data center, whether it is in manufacturing, electronics, even for the expats, if they are going to stay here, the experts for a longer time. On the data center, I just thought I'll take this opportunity to clarify, because there was some speculation about what has been done. The thought process in this is that a global entity which is providing kind of cloud-based data services uses data centers all over the world to provide services to the customers. So it is very difficult to connect one-on-one as to which data center has resulted in what type of revenue. So the international entity of this nature would like to set up data services centers in India, which is a net economic plus for us, because it adds to that level, scale and level of economic activities. It has strategic purpose too. So the arrangement we have done is, just because that entity will set up data service centers and will use this as one of the many to provide services globally, should not become a cause of uncertainty for it that its global income will get taxed here. So that is the certainty which we are giving to it. Quite naturally, the data service center, which is located in India, will be taxed depending on the way it is positioned. And that entity will be selling its services to customers in India through a reseller entity, which again gets taxed. What we are excluding from taxation is this global entity, which is essentially doing cloud-based services, using data services centers across. And we do not want it to be deterred from enhancing its business footprint in India to provide such global services.
I'll just come in to add to that point on foreign investors, to point out one or two points on the Part A side also, which are important. One is that this was this ask from AIFs for a very long time, that most AIFs in our country are formed as trusts. Their request had been for a pretty long time to consider if the LLP Act can be modified and amended to align it with the functional requirements of AIFs. That has been announced today, which is a very big move forward, as it will allow them to, the amendments are going to be of such a nature that by becoming LLPs, first of all, the liability will get limited. And then there are going to be amendments which will also allow for document filing, rationalize for entry and exit of partners, and similar such things to make it easy for the AIF partners. So that's one of the announcements today. The other was the announcement on the PROIs and the relaxations given therein of how much they can invest in a company. individually and together. So those limits have been significantly enhanced, and all of it has been rationalized in line with OCIs and NRIs. Other than that, the FEM NDI rules, we intend to review it for two things. One is, again, we are continuously in touch with investors. There are asks over there. So instead of doing it one by one, this shows the intent of the government to actually reach out and address the world which is interested in investing in India and make it easy for them to do so.
214.
मैम मैं आलोक प्रियदर्शी हूँ CNBC आवाज से। मैम मेरा सवाल यही है कि जो सवाल STT से रिलेटेड है, सिक्योरिटी ट्रांजैक्शन टैक्स से, मैम यहाँ पे मैम जो पॉलिसी है फ्यूचर एंड ऑप्शन लेक को लेकर सरकार की क्या पॉलिसी है, थोड़ा सा स्पष्ट करें। और दूसरा कि जो STT बढ़ाया गया है, बहुत ही जैसे रेवेन्यू सर ने कहा कि बहुत मामूली बढ़ोतरी की गई है, तो क्या इससे जो सरकार की पॉलिसी कि रिटेल इन्वेस्टर्स को ऐसे जो बहुत हाई रिस्क की इंस्ट्रूमेंट है उनमें निवेश से एक तरह से कॉशन करने की पॉलिसी है, तो क्या इससे ये मकसद हासिल होता है क्या?
I'll ask the Revenue Secretary to go into the details, but आपका विषय जो मकसद के ऊपर बात कर रहे हैं ना, मैं पिछले बजट के समय में भी इसका एक्सप्लेन भी की। We are touching only the futures and options. STT otherwise बाकी सब का ट्रांजैक्शन के ऊपर कोई नहीं किया, मगर जहां स्पेकुलेशन, हिंदी में सट्टा बोलते हैं, स्पेकुलेशन ज्यादा और समटाइम्स हाईली रिस्की, क्योंकि हमें मैसेज आता है लोगों से कि इधर बहुत लॉस भी फेस कर रहे हैं लोग जिनके हाथ में इतना एक्स्ट्रा पैसा भी नहीं है जिससे वो स्पेकुलेट कर सकते हैं. सो दिस नॉमिनल इंक्रीज इज प्योरली एम्ड एट हाई स्पेकुलेशन ओनली टू डिटर देम. मकसद बोल रहे हैं, हाँ, उनको थोड़ा डिस्करेज करने के लिए. हम इसके खिलाफ नहीं है, जरूर एक्टिविटी जो होता है उसका रेस्पेक्ट करते हैं, मगर इतने लॉस और इतने छोटे छोटे लोग का लॉस को सरकार देखकर कैसे आप चुप रह सकते हो? डिटर करो थोड़ा उसको पीछे हटने के लिए, बस उतना ही.
So the tax is only one element of the kind of supplementing or supporting that policy, which is what I explained before. In as far as the rest of what and how this market has to be regulated is probably for the market regulator to respond better on that aspect.
67 from the center.
I'm Pallavi from CNN News 18. Little political question because the reactions are coming in from the opposition parties. Rahul Gandhi specifically says that the budget has failed to go in for a course correction and that it not address the real concerns of the country.
With due respects, I don't know what course correction he is referring to. Economy and its fundamentals are strong. Global uncertainty is facing many of our sectors, for whom we have brought in so many different schemes for those small and medium enterprises, for textiles, for leather, for shoe uppers, for people who are working in the rural areas, schemes for benefiting them, for even the farmer and value addition, for women entrepreneurs who are chote groups, self-help entrepreneurs, the she marts that we've come up with. These are ways in which we are reaching out to the common small people to make sure that they don't have to face big changes in their life because of any volatility coming from outside. They could be contributing to exporting small things, but different uncertainties can affect them equally. Many of them have been shown as successful because you see when you go there, Lakpati Didis is a fantastic difference made to women in the rural areas. Now we're bringing them together to sell their wares. Are these not measures through which we are reaching out for the poor, the small, those in a difficult terrain or in rural areas? And with all this, the fundamentals of the economy remain strong. And that has come out even in the economic survey. So, well, politically you want to criticize, you're welcome, please do it. But if you want to give me the facts on which you're basing your argument, I'm willing to hear and willing to reply to that.
16 the center.
Ma'am, I am Bani Kinkar Patnaik from the Economic Times. Ma'am, I think probably one of the most important features of this budget is that for the first time in probably many years, your effective capital expenditure at 4.4% of GDP is going to be slightly higher than your fiscal deficit, projected fiscal deficit for the next year. So it means, I mean, in other words, you will be using more than your entire borrowed resources. You will be deploying that in productive spending. So I wanted to ask you that, whether it is going to be the new normal in the coming years. And ma'am, one clarification I needed. This VV Ramji scheme, you have allocated more than 95,000 crore. At the same time, I see that Narega has also got 30,000 crore. So is it going to be on top of that, or because Jiramji scheme is supposed to replace this Narega scheme?
I'll ask the expenditure secretary to respond on that.
On the new scheme, the GRAMG, the budget provision has been provided exactly as what you would have seen when the bill was being presented and the act was there. So we have gone exactly whatever is required has been provided. Now on the old scheme also having some money, in fact, it's a legacy of the inefficient way in which the scheme was, the MG and Narega was being implemented by the states. So there is some carryover of liabilities, 30,000 crores. So that we have taken the responsibility of verifying and fulfilling it. So that's why we have kept that, but otherwise fresh implementation will be on the new provisions.
I would say that the fact that we have an annual budget means that we review everything annually. So I will leave it at that. We have done our fiscal math, and I think we come with a certain credibility on the fisc that we are confident of meeting, and while adhering to our commitment to higher capex. And fiscal deficit financing, as we have always done, is through a mix of market borrowings as well as NSSF. So that will continue. So there's not many major changes like that. Thank you.
37 at the back, yeah.
Hi ma'am, this is Shrimi Chaudhary from NDTV Profit. Just wanted to understand that this one-time foreign asset disclosure scheme, how that will be different from the similar scheme in the past, and if you could elaborate a contour of that, and also is there any estimation of undisclosed foreign assets being done by the department?
So this scheme is meant first of all for small taxpayers. There is a ceiling of the amount that can be disclosed. This window was provided for the first 3 months when the act was brought in, the BMA Act, and that time people utilized it. What has been found is that there are many small taxpayers who, because of their ignorance, etc., have not been able to do proper disclosures. So this window is being given as a one-time 6-month window for such small taxpayers, the list of which some idea of who they are has been given in the budget speech also. So there are two streams in this window. One is of the people who have paid their tax, the income is disclosed and is quite transparently known. All that they failed to do is they were not able to disclose the asset, foreign asset that they had because of that. Which means they will be able to prove that the income was put to tax. However, the asset was not, just only thing they did not do is did not disclose it in their returns to the income tax department. So this is the window B, where we are saying that if you have a foreign asset of up to 5 crores, you can pay a fine of 1 lakh rupees, which today under the act would have entailed them a fine of 10 lakh, a penalty of 10 lakh rupees and prosecution. So you will get both immunity from penalty and prosecution, and you can declare those assets. This is category B. There would also be category of people who may not have been able to or have not properly disclosed their income. This is the category A, for which this limit is 1 crore rupees. So 1 crore rupees of foreign asset or income, if they have not disclosed, then they can disclose it during this window. In this case, however, they will have to pay the tax as well as 30% tax and then 30% additional tax on top of that. and a certain amount of interest, again they will get immunity from penalty and prosecution. The idea is to essentially help those NRIs, returning NRIs, students, some professionals, people who have gone out, people who may have got ESOPs, any kind of such assets that they may have outside, they'll be able to disclose it and be able to protect themselves against penalty and prosecution and come clean. And it has been structured in a manner that it addresses only small assets, and secondly, it is something which will be helping them to also get away from all the procedural problems of penalty and prosecution.
25.
Hello, ma'am. Ruchika Chitravanshi from Business Standard. Ma'am, while you have stated that global uncertainty was playing on the minds of officials across the board, if I may ask you, what was the one challenge that you were trying to address, or economic concern that you were trying to address in this budget?
And we said global uncertainties play in the minds of all the officials. It is a truth that all of us are watching, that global uncertainties are really of the magnitude that we've never seen before. So naturally, we had to assess for ourselves the various ways in which these uncertainties are playing out. So all of them are equally important.
243.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Kriti Ambe from Informist Media. Ma'am, this year's nominal GDP projection, the projection of 393 lakh crore, does it take into account the upcoming base year revision, or is it possible that this number would undergo further revision when MOSPI releases the new base year and releases its estimates based on the new base year by the end of February?
Let the CEA and the Secretary EA answer that.
The 393 lakh crores or 10% nominal GDP growth was arrived at based on the existing GDP base year and the methodology.
Ma'am, if I could follow up on that, back in 2015 when the base year revision had happened, the previous year's 14 and 13 numbers went up, nominal number went up by what, odd 9 lakh crore. So if FY26 number goes up by that sort of magnitude, or even if not from 357, it goes to 360, your fiscal deficit estimate would come down even further. So do you think there is possibility?
You began your question with a if, right? No answers from my side for ifs.
Sure, thank you, ma'am.
45. I think what sent.
Hello ma'am, this is Pushpita Dey from the New Indian Express. So a lot of custom duty reductions have been introduced. So how do you see the impact on the revenue, and also particularly for the consumer goods like 50% duty reduction, will there be any measures to ensure there is no dumping after the reduction happen? And also, not particularly related to the budget, after the recent Tiger Global Tax Supreme Court verdict, do you see there will be any impact on the foreign investment for India? Thank you.
Customs duty, the reductions, etc., which have been given have a logic for that sector, the need for those items to be brought into India, and customs duty not to add cost to it. So there is an economic logic of why it has been done. And if you have seen, most of them are meant to essentially enhance either manufacturing or value addition within India, or help the cause of exporters who are using those imported items to export items from out of India. So this is a very conscious sectoral call. For each sector item, the value chain has been analyzed, based upon which decision on whatever moderation or whatever calibration of duties were to be done have been done. The second part in terms of revenues, etc. is concerned, what you would have seen is there are a lot of custom process reforms that have been proposed. And the idea is essentially to enhance the volume of international trade, which should fetch us more revenues rather than playing on the rate itself. So we do hope that these process reforms will encourage more people to kind of export, in the process probably the part of global value chain, more exports, and duty or revenues will be a result of that buoyancy.
I just want to add one additional point to what my colleague Revenue Secretary said. If you look at many of the customs duty reliefs given in Part B, you have to read them in conjunction with the announcements made in Part A on manufacturing. So you look at electronic component manufacturing and you look at the concessions given in Part B, there is a certain logic, alignment and synergy between the two. So that's exactly what you need to focus on.
So actually, the fear of dumping there, will you be monitoring it? We are looking at only those sectors where we need to have our production capabilities improved, and raw materials shouldn't be a constraint on those items which are necessary for us. So it is a very calibrated way in which we've done it.
39.
Thank you, sir. Congratulations, ma'am, and everybody. Karishma from Business Today. Ma'am, I just want to also continue the question on the rural employment scheme. A couple of states have shared skepticism and apprehension if they'll be able to fiscally absorb it and if they have the appetite on the cost sharing for the scheme. Ma'am, second, just a follow-up question, if there could be an update given on IDBI disinvestment.
I think the agriculture